As I've been here this week, and some of the earlier speakers have touched upon it, they are manifesting things in their life, and it's like this.
Oh, it just looks that way. It's always like that on the other side of the fence.
There was a young woman up here that was constantly manifesting, and she perceived that her husband wasn't just at the same rate of speed. And I find that in my life, because my partner, he's very much like this, and he feels at times that I should be farther than I am. And it's frustrating for me, because I'm here and I'm kind of on my own journey, and he's there on his journey, and most of the time they line up, but every once in a while.
We want to tell you something about the plan for all of this contrast that surrounds you. The non-physical intention that you held, you thought that all of that contrast would inspire you to personal decisions, but you never planned on the comparison thwarting you. You never planned on looking at others and having it be to your disadvantage. You always planned on the variety that you are being to your advantage, because it gives you choices. And so earlier when we said make a decision and line up with it, you could decide that your partner is impatient and that he's right and that you're flawed. And you could line up with that, which doesn't feel very good ever. Or you could decide that he's on his path and you're on your path, and your paths converge a lot, and that you have different ways of approaching life and both of them work. And you could decide that you have so much vibrationally in common that that's what attracted you to one another, but that you didn't come as identical twin vibrators, or there would have been no point for two of you to be there. If you were identical, you wouldn't need the other one. There'd be no advantage to that. So just make a decision and line up with it. Is your approach wrong?
No.
Don't make that decision and line up with it. Is your partner's approach wrong? Don't make that decision and line up with it. Hesitated a little too long there. Or can you both be right in your approach to life? And can the different beats and the different sounds and the different notes make a beautiful combination?
Well, they do. And going back to what you said earlier about bringing the best in someone else, I think that he does bring the best out in me. And he also has a way of, I guess, expanding my perspective, because he's already in the flow. And he's like, he wants to do everything, go everywhere, buy everything, and just be a superstar. And it sounds great to me. Let me come along for the ride, and I'll join you. Okay. But he's shown me things. He's shown me a lot. He's been a great teacher.
In that last little run, what was apparent is your awareness of how things look to others more than how they feel to you. In this significant conversation that we are appreciating so much, you're not tending to your point of attraction. You are analyzing your point of attraction, trying to step into somebody else's viewpoint, which you can't do. And you are comparing your attraction. This is maybe the primary point of this conversation that's been developing as we've all been together, is that as you're tending to your point of attraction, that means you're tending to how you feel. That means you're tending to merging how you feel with how your inner being feels. That means you understand the process. Step one was you ask for stuff. Step two was it got put there, and that your inner being is tending it. And step three is you're finding vibrational alignment with it. And step four is you're getting really good at that. And that's what tending to your vibration means, caring about the way you feel. And we've been sort of hammering that for the last, most of today especially, that if you care about your point of attraction more than you care about what your point of attraction produces, you'll be home free. But it's hard to do, because you're used to standing in a world where most of the people who are looking on are only looking at the results of your vibration. And so if you've been living like a physical human, where you're producing this and you're producing this, and you're saying, see, I made that, and 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 I made that, caring about what others are perceiving and their evaluation of what you're perceiving is one way of approaching life. But you're not ever going to be perceived in the way you think you want to be perceived, because all of the perceivers want different things from you. For some of them, you're far too wealthy, and for some of them, you're not wealthy enough, and for some of them, you have the wrong sexual preferences, and for some of them, you have the perfect sexual preferences. For some of them, you're of the right political party, and on and on and on and on and on and on it goes. And so it is a hopeless situation to seek happiness through creating superstardom. Is a hopeless situation. You're just not ever going to, if you're measuring yourself against others, you're not ever going to be in a place where you're truly satisfied, because that satisfaction depends upon the polling of others and their analysis of you, of which they have no true ability to even ascertain. They cannot come to the correct conclusions about you. Don't ask them to do that. They just can't do it, and it's totally unsatisfying for you and for them too. But if instead of approaching life from the standpoint of how my creations stack up against other creators, if instead you are creating life in terms of how my point of attraction feels, how my alignment feels, you see, it is as wonderful to create a button as a castle, because the desire for it and the accomplishment of it brings an alignment together that is sublime. And it's only people from the outside that are measuring the value of the castle or the button. But for the creator of it, anything that you desire and you come into alignment with, now you are tending to your vibration, and you are at one with your inner being, and you have become whole with who you are, and all is well in your universe. You see what we're getting at? So much of the physical world is wanting to measure accomplishments by manifestations, and it is so backwards, because the manifestations are so temporary. They're so fleeting. It's this house, then this house, and this car, and then this car, and this piece of clothing, and this piece of clothing, and on it goes. And it's only really rarely that you get a keepsake that you want to drag through life with you, and then you're dragging your mother's keepsakes through life with her, until you're burdened with all of these physical manifestational keepsakes that don't mean diddly squat. They were all just your excuse to find a reason to focus yourself into the wholeness of who you are, you see. Helpful? So we adore it when you create lovely stuff. We really like it when something sparks your interest and you focus on it and you relax and you allow it to happen, and you acknowledge the relationship between it being in your life and your attention upon it. We are not wanting to dissuade you from magnificent creation of physical things. You are in a physical world. You're here to let your manifestations show like that. We just want the manifestations to represent the way you felt as they were becoming, because beyond that, they are meaningless. Beyond the way they caused you to feel, or beyond the way you allowed yourself to feel, they don't have any real meaning. They're just something to store and dust and ensure.
I understand that. And I mean, you hit a point with my mother's things.
We know.
There's still a few things I have, but you know, she passed 2 years ago, and I took a handful of things, and most of it I came to the realization this is something she enjoyed. That doesn't necessarily mean it was enjoyable for her while she was alive, so that didn't necessarily translate to me having to have a plate with a cardinal on it and say I enjoy that because my mother did.
Oh no, you need to keep that forever. So let's take this awareness that you are currently feeling in a strong way, and let's apply it to the way everyone is approaching everything about you. The desires that your life helps you to identify that you want are your excuse for flowing energy, and it's the flowing of the energy that is the prize. You all say the joy is in the journey, and we say those words are so significant. It is the journey, it is the becoming. It's a constant state of a new awareness and a new reason to focus and a new feeling of pleasure of coming into focus. Let us say this to you, and thank you very much for this. We've been saying to you in the days that we've been together how exhilarating it is to us to contemplate you all discovering the power of non-resisted thought. And now we'd like to say, along with, or maybe even instead, for you to discover the pleasure of non-resisted thought. The joy of non-resisted thought. There's power in there, but what you're reaching for is the joy of it, the alignment of it, the wholeness of it, the recognizing of your value of it, the worthiness of it, the joy of it. And wish the same for everyone. And let everyone be wherever they are in the understanding of who they are and why they are here. And applaud every single thing that every single person feels proud about accomplishing. And be the uplifter that you were born to be by not being too critical of who's doing what. By being the essence of love that you are and just loving the variety that surrounds. Without such critical edge of needing that variety to be a little less and that variety to be a little more. And we want you to be picky about your variety, but we want you to be picky about your variety as it relates to you, not as it relates to someone else. Even if you live with them, you've got to allow others to choose what's important to them. You don't come together in partnership to say, let's line up and be identical in our wanting. And something very important to realize is that the fact that you are together and that you feel that elation that you feel about each other means that your points of compatibility are huge already, but you don't need to be compatible about each and everything. And that is the true path, the true essence, the true freedom of discovering what unconditional love is. Because conditional love means there's all these manifestations and conditions that we've got to come to agreement about. Good luck with that. But instead, I decide that I'm going to be unconditional in my love, which means I'm going to be non-physical in my love, which means I'm going to be a vibrational match to the wholeness that is me. And then I can focus into the conditions and the situations of the world because I've got my vibrational footing, you see. And you do. Most of the time you do.
Thank you.
Good conversation. Yeah, really good. Really good. Really good.